ॐ गणानां त्वा गणपतिं हवामहे कविं कवीनामुपमश्रवस्तमम् ज्येष्ठराजं ब्रह्मणां ब्रह्मणस्पत आनशृण्वन्नोतिभिः सीदसादनम् ॐ श्रीमहागणाधिपतये नमः। ॐ वृषभं चर्षणीनां विश्वरूपमदाभ्यं बृहस्पतिं वरेण्यम् ॐ तद्विष्णोः परमं पदं सदा पश्यन्ति सूरयः दिवीव चक्षुराततम् ॐ ऐं ह्रीं श्रीं क्लीं ह्सौः जगत्प्रसूत्यै नमः। Can everybody say after me Hare Rama Krishna 3 times? Om Hare Rama Krishna, Hare Rama Krishna, Hare Rama Krishna. Okay, before we take up any more charts, I want to throw up a chart and I want to test your learning basically. I want to let you give the readings or explain things.
Basic question.
Yes, go ahead.
Which I think many might have, but I definitely have this.
Yeah.
We have been learning this for about 6 months.
Yeah.
And I come to the class, this is for me.
Yeah.
Maybe true with others, may not be.
Yeah. Could be true with some others. Yeah.
As well. I come to the class, I get as much as I can. Because of other time constraints, I go home. Next time I come back is only on Sunday I'm here.
Yeah.
So there is not other input I'm able to grasp from outside the class,
Yeah.
from reading or anything because of time constraints.
Okay.
Time constraints or location.
Okay.
So the amount that I'm able to grasp is become very narrow.
Yeah.
And is not aiding me make significant progress.
Yeah.
What I think I should do.
Yeah.
So the thing here is there any mantra that can help in being able to assimilate and do better?
Okay, the mantra is see some charts.
Huh?
The mantra is see some charts. I'll look at your chart and we can try to get some mantra. But bottom line is, if you are just coming and spending 2 hours here and going home and then again spending 2 hours next week,
it's not really.
It may be good enough to give you some background, but you really learn when you put it to test, when you look at the charts. See, all the people in the class, they've been bringing charts to the class where they are not really clear why something happened in certain period or why something happened in a chart. That is because they've been exercising. And only if you exercise, you will find out what you don't know. When you hear what I am talking, everything seems very simple, very nice. You will think, oh yeah, it's cool. But when you actually start applying it, you will wonder, why Mars Dasha, why not Mercury Dasha, why not this, why not that? Then you will really learn. And also when it comes to rectifying the chart, coming up with the right time, it's not very straightforward. It's a tricky process. And unless you have hands-on experience, you will not really become good at it. So if you don't get a lot of time, maybe make a couple of more hours every week. When you go home, try to spend another couple of months every week. Couple of days, a couple of hours every week, looking at some chart. Maybe your own chart or your wife's chart or your children's chart or somebody that you know well, or your parents' chart, your siblings' chart. Try to make sense of things. And that's the only way to really make progress. And coming to mantra, let me open your chart. I think I have your chart. And another thing is, when I give some logic in the class, if you don't really completely understand it, feel free to stop me. Because some people, now as we go further and further, the gap between different students in the class will slowly increase. Some people are going with the flow, and some people are grasping very fast, and some people may be slightly slow. And we have to make sure that those who are slow don't get left behind.
No, but when you speak in the class, everything is clear and it seems to be coming in, but we can't retain it because there's so much content under the practice.
Right. In that case, the only thing you need is to retain it and also to understand it better, to assimilate it better. You do have to look at charts. You have to spend some more time outside of these 2 hours and look at some charts. And as far as mantra is concerned, let me see. First let us see your D24. D24 is the chart of learning, occult learning. Anything like astrology.
Don't you see in D20 or D24 for that?
Yeah. D20 is spiritual progress and D24 is learning. And learning astrology is basically like a spiritual progress also. So you can mix D20 and D24, but let's stick to D24 now. Let's stick to the learning part of it. So if you look at the dasha that you are running, let us apply. I'm just looking at the natal chart. I'm not looking at the Pravesh chart.
This year you will suppose you are learning period of time.
During this year, learning may have increased, and there may be a reason in the Pravesh. But when I tell him which deity to pray to, in order to make his Jyotish knowledge better, I better look at the natal chart. When we give any remedies, it is a good idea to base them, give them based on the natal chart rather than Pravesh chart. So I'm just looking at the natal chart, and what is the dasha that is applicable in his case? What is the nakshatra dasha that you should use? By default, it is Vinchotri dasha, but we have seen some exceptions, some conditions that apply, in which case there are some conditional dashas, and we have said in the previous classes that when those dashas are applicable, they give far better results. And in your case, let's look at all the rare conditional dashas. The first one is Dvisaptati Samadasya. When is it applicable? Lagna Lord in 7th or 7th Lord in Lagna. And is that the case here?
What is the name of the dasha again?
Dvisaptati Samadasya. All of you have the software. If you open the software, go to Nakshatra Dashas, just click on each of these dashas, and then there is an information here. For example, look at Dvadashotri Dasha. It says applicable if Lagna is in Venusian Amsa, which means it is in an Avamsa owned by Venus. So like that, there is help. If you go through all those 6 or 7 dashas, you will clearly understand what are the criteria. And some of those dashas, like Shodashotri Dasha, Kshatrimsha Samadasya, are very common. They are applicable to half the people. So if they are applicable, they should be used for specific purposes. You can still use Vinchotri Dasha. So I don't advise jumping directly into them. You can still use Vinchotri. But there are some dashas that are less common, that are rarer. When they are applicable, just use them. So Dvisaptati Samadasya is applicable when Lagna Lord is in 7th or 7th Lord is in Lagna. Dvalishotri Dasha is applicable if Lagna is in an Avamsa owned by Venus. And Chaturasiti Samadasya, it means 84-year Dasha. Asiti means 80. It's also called Asi in Hindi. In Sanskrit it is Asiti. Chatuh means 4. So Chaturasiti means 4 over 80. That is 84. So this is an 84-year Dasha. This is applicable if the 10th Lord is in 10th house. So this is another Dasha. And then Shatabdika Dasha. This is applicable if Lagna is in Vargottama, which means Lagna is in the same sign in both Rashi and Navamsha. And Shashti Hayani Dasha. This Dasha is applicable if Lagna has Sun in it. So these are the different Dashas that can get precedence over Vinchotri Dasha. And in this case, do you see that the 10th Lord is in 10th house? Yes. Mercury. So Chaturasiti Samadasya will apply. Just spend a few minutes with the list. And some of the dashas we've been using, so you know, like Dvisaptati Samadasya. But other dashas, look at the conditions and familiarize yourself. So when you see the chart, you should be able to say, this is the dasha that I want to use. And when you use the dasha, basically things become very clear, more than in Shotri dasha. So if you look at the
So that means, question. So if 10th Lord is 10th house and we are looking dasha, means we are taking that as a center point and looking at all the houses from there?
No, we are not. That's just a condition.
Okay.
Still, the way you judge this dasha is the same as Shotri dasha. You would just look at Lagna, you would look at Moon, you would look at Aru Lagna. Everything you do is exactly the same. That condition doesn't mean that you take the 10th Lord as the center for judging the dasha.
Okay. The focus of those dasha is not in 10th house.
No, not necessarily. Not necessarily.
For example, this question, in Vinchotri, we look at the position of Moon.
Yeah.
Who is the Lord of the Nakshatra and start.
Yeah.
Start the both dasha.
Yeah.
And in this case, dashas like this, how do you start?
It is again based on Moon's nakshatra.
It's also again based
All these are nakshatra dashas and they are all based on the nakshatra of Moon. The difference is When you say moon is in Purvabhadra, you say Purvabhadra is owned by Jupiter. That is actually Purvabhadra being owned by Jupiter is only in the Vinchotri scheme. As such, the lord of the Purvabhadra Nakshatra is not Jupiter. It is Ajay Ekapada. It is basically a form of Vishnu. He is the ruler of that Nakshatra. Similarly, Uttarabhadra, you say it is owned by Saturn. But actual owner of Uttarabhadra is Ahirbudhya. He is basically a former, one of the Rudras. There are 11 Rudras. One of them is called Ahirbudhya. He is the owner of Uttarabhadra. Like that, for every nakshatra there is one owner.
27 gods.
27 gods basically, 27 deities. All the other laws that we use are only in the Vinchotri Dasha scheme. If you go to some other Dasha, there are some other laws. Purvabhadra may be owned by moon in some other scheme. So here again we are looking at moon's nakshatra and going to the next nakshatra and so on. That is exactly what we are doing in all these Dashas. Okay?
An adjective never a property for Nishakram at all.
Pardon me?
An adjective, it is 28.
Yeah?
That's never after the Joshua.
Not in most of these nakshatra Dashas. Basically, the 27 nakshatra scheme is more mundane, more physical. And the 28 nakshatra scheme, which contains Abhijit, we talked about Abhijit earlier, it's a part of Uttarashada nakshatra. So if you include that nakshatra, the 28 nakshatra scheme is more spiritual in nature. It is not physical because that nakshatra is not really physical. So this is in the spiritual plane. So when you look at things in the spiritual plane, that nakshatra plays a role. There are a lot of charts, chakras, which use that nakshatra like Savatobhadra chakra or yes. So there are other places where that is used, but in these nakshatra dashas, most of them anyway, there are actually a couple that use Abhijit, but in most of the nakshatra dashas, you don't use Abhijit. But again, like I want to emphasize, if you get into the calculation, you can get confused. If you just stick to whatever the software gives you, and if you just remember what the conditions are, and pick the right dasha, and do your analysis, there is no difference between Vinchotri dasha and this dasha. Just use it the way you use Vinchotri dasha, even though there are actually some differences when you go into nakshatra lords and start using the nakshatra dispositors to judge the dasha. We haven't done it yet. We haven't used the nakshatra dispositors. So based on all the principles that we are familiar with so far, there is no difference between this dasha and Vinchotri dasha. So for all practical purposes, we are not using hundreds of dashas, but we are using just one dasha. We are not using 10 dashas, we are just using one dasha. Yeah.
Whatever status that is true for me to work exactly in my work.
Yeah.
And I'm trying to look at only Rashi and Navamsa, not trained.
Yeah.
That's the way.
I understand
So,
that.
and I look at horoscope, but I draw a blank. I stop it.
Yeah.
It's a little bit, I mean, I have to do more work, so I agree.
Right. You certainly do.
Yeah.
What happened to it?
So, the prediction part of it, I still need to get some. One of the things is, it's okay if you're not gentle about it.
Right. And the thing is, those of you who are inclined to just look at Rashi and Navamsa and Vinchotri, because that's what a lot of Indian astrologers do.
Yes.
They are trained to use Rashi, Navamsa and just look at Vinchotri Dasha. You can still explain things, but sometimes you have to bend over your backwards, engage in some really fancy logic to explain things. And you see it in a lot of books. If you see any astrology books written in the last 30 years, you will see a lot of such nonsensical logic. I mean, nonsense may be an offensive word to those people, but it is nonsense. Basically, you can't replicate it. You can't rely on that logic to make predictions. When you have a real chart, you have 6 or 7 planets which can give the result, and you just pick them randomly. And when you know what happened, you very easily justify it. You make it look so simple. But when you want to pick a planet to make a prediction, you just draw a blank. So what we've been doing in the class is, look at the correct divisional chart. If you want to see somebody's career, then just go to Dashamsha. If you want to see learning, just go to D24. So those of you who started fresh, who didn't have any background, are actually better off compared to those of you who already have a background and who are trained to use Rashi, Navamsa and just Vinchotri Dasha. So my advice is, and some of you have been really making good progress. Some of you, for example, who started in May, rectified their own charts so nicely and came up with almost perfect logic. So what I advise you is try. I know that it's difficult to unlearn what you already learned, but realize that all the divisional charts should be used. Realize that Vinchotri is not the only dasha. pick the right chart, pick the right dasha. And based on what you are judging, pick Lagna or Arudha Lagna. Because if you are looking at status and image, Arudha Lagna is the Lagna, not normal Lagna. If you use the right tools and right parameters, things are simple. When I debate this with other people on the Yahoo groups, various Yahoo groups, people somehow think that when you start using divisional charts, all these dashas, it's complex. They think that it causes complications. It's not simple. But the fact is, they think that they are engaging in simple analysis by sticking to Rati, Navamsa and Vinchotri dasha. But because they are simplifying their tools, they have to complicate their logic. They say, oh, pardon me?
Which can't be generalized.
Yeah, it can't be generalized. They say, oh, he's aspecting the 7th house, so he gave marriage. But what about the planets in 7th house? 7th Lord. Other planets who are aspecting 7th house. If you include all those, there are 5 or 6 planets. How can you say that this guy gave the result, this planet gave the result? So it is logic that looks nice in books but not good enough when you actually have to make predictions. On the other hand, if you use all the tools given by Parashara, by the Maharshi, things become very simple. Just because you are using so many different charts, people get turned off. They think that it's complicated, but it makes life much easier. So let us now go back to Seshu Garu's chart.
Just one more question and then.
Yes.
In my case, Saturn is in Lagna. It also happens to be the 7th Lord.
Yeah.
So which?
Then Risaptati Samadasha should be used. Yes. So in Seshu Garu's case, he has Sagittarius Lagna. For those of you who are listening to the audio, the birth data again is September 16, 1961, 2:22 p.m. Indian Standard Time, Secunderabad, India, 78 East 30, 17 North 27. So if you look at the Rashi chart, Mercury is the 10th Lord, Virgo Lord, he is in Virgo, he is in the 10th house. So Chaturasi Samadasha applies. I opened the Dasha. And right now he is running, what Dasha is he running?
Saturn.
A couple of years back, he started Saturn Dasha. Is Saturn Dasha conducive to learning astrology?
Yes.
Why? Why did you say yes? What are the houses important for learning astrology?
8 and 9.
8 and?
9.
Why 9?
9 is for spiritual learning. G24, 9.
9 is basically Dharma. Learning relating to Dharma doesn't necessarily mean astrology. Astrology is not Dharma. Dharma Shastra is different and astrology is different. Astrology is an occult subject. It's a Vedanga. For learning Vedangas, the houses are 5, 8 and 11. And second, basically it's the Panapara. 2nd, 5th, 8th and 11th. These are the houses important for occult knowledge.
What did you say second?
Pardon me?
What did you say second?
Second is basically speech.
Why is speech important? Why is resources in speech? You should be able to speak what you've learned, right?
Right. Right. So what you say is right. If you just want to learn how astrology works, if you want to learn the principles, 2nd house is not that important. But when you actually talk about applied astrology, then 2nd house is very important. 5th house is in general scholarship.
Ability is scholarship.
Pardon me?
5th house is ability is scholarship.
Yes. It's basically your scholarship. And 8th house is occult knowledge. It is the hidden knowledge. So 8th house is the most pivotal house when you are talking about astrology. And when you are talking about learning that occult knowledge, what is the house of learning? 4th house. So the 4th from 8th, that is learning occult knowledge. 8th house is all the occult insights that you have. And the 4th from there is the process of building those insights, the process of learning that knowledge. What is the 4th from 8th? It is 11th. So 11th house is a very important house when it comes to learning something new relating to occult. And 8th house is basically all the occult knowledge that you know, all the insights that you have. And 5th house is your overall intelligence and overall scholarship. And if the 5th house is not strong, if the 5th house is not connected with these houses, with the 8th and 11th, whatever occult learning that you engage in may not actually result in some knowledge, may not make you a scholar. It may not be useful. And similarly, if it is not linked with the 2nd house, it may not be useful in prediction. The 2nd house is the actual speech that you make. It is your prediction. So 11th house is important for learning occult knowledge. 8th house is the occult knowledge that you learn. Fifth house is the enabler of all this learning, and second house is the application of this knowledge. So that is the relative, respective importance of these four houses, and these are the important houses for occult knowledge. Now, he started running Saturn Dasha recently. Is Saturn Dasha conducive to learning occult knowledge? Can he become a good astrologer in Saturn Dasha?
Yes.
Why?
Because he is in the fifth house and the 11th lord.
Excellent.
And then in the fourth, even in the fourth lord in 11th house.
Yeah. So fourth lord, Mercury is in 11th house. So Mercury can give occult learning, but Saturn, like you said, Saturn is the 11th lord. So he can also give occult learning, and he is basically he is in the fifth house. So if the 11th lord is in fifth house, it can show a lot of learning of occult knowledge. Right? What are the Antardashas he is running right now? He is running Sun Antardasha. Is Sun Antardasha favorable? Aha. Okay, I just wanted to check the Atmakaraka. Because one of the rules is any occult knowledge like Jyotish, it comes from the Atma. It comes from the Atma level. So one of standard principles for learning occult knowledge, for becoming good at occult knowledge, is link between Atmakaraka and 11th Lord. Because 11th is learning occult knowledge and Atmakaraka is your soul. If there is a link between them, then there is a soul level connection, and that can give you knowledge of Jyotish. So I just wanted to check whether Saturn or Sun, one of them happens to be Atmakaraka, and it is Sun who happens to be Atmakaraka. So Atmakaraka Sun, who signifies soul, he is in the fifth house of scholarship, and he is with the 11th Lord Saturn. So that is why there is a potential in your chart to actually learn astrology. If you learn something, if you learn astrology, especially if you just learn sun sign astrology, you say, oh, he was born between May 15 and June 15, so these are the results. That is very superficial. But if you are learning all these things like Siddhamsa, D24, D10, so many dashas, arudhas, if you are learning such sophisticated knowledge, which comes from Maharshis directly, Parasara and Jaimini, there must be something in your chart, and also there must be some Purva Karma. It doesn't come to you in one life. You must have been an astrologer in past life to become exposed to this knowledge again in this life. Same is true with everybody. So there has to be a link with the soul level. So there has to be a link with the Atmakaraka. So here you are running Saturn Mahadasha, Sun Antardasha from 2004 January till 2005 September. So last year, around 1 year back, you started this Dasha, Saturn Dasha, Sun Antardasha. That is the Dasha, Antardasha that will bring the connection between 11th house and Atmakaraka to the 4th. So this is the real igniter basically. This will ignite the soul level desire for learning occult knowledge. So that is why you are learning the knowledge of astrology during this period. But is there a link with the second house? There is. They have an Argala on the second house. Saturn and Sun have an Argala on the second house. So during this time, even making good predictions is a possibility. But when you are talking about predictions, who is the planet who will enable you to make good predictions? Moon or Mars? Okay, Moon or Mars, either one. Moon is the fifth lord and Mars is the second lord. Moon brings scholarship. Being the fifth lord, he brings your scholarship into your house of speech. And Mars is the lord of the house of speech. And they have a yoga there. And because of their yoga, either Moon or Mars will give you excellent predictions. So when it comes to actually looking at a chart and coming up with the right prediction, it will come to you in after 2005 September. Between 2005 September to 2009 February, you will be at the peak of your predictive ability as far as this dasha is concerned. What is the next dasha? Next dasha is Sun, and then even next dasha is Moon. And Moon dasha will be brilliant for you as an astrologer. But within the current dasha, after basically another 9 months, you will come into that groove, basically the so-called groove. Once you are in the groove, what you say comes true. And when you are not in the groove, you just find it so complex to judge all the factors. Things may seem simple, but you either don't have time to engage in practical astrology, or you engage in practical astrology but you go wrong for reasons that you can't explain. So What I suggest to you is, just take it easy. Don't worry about your predictions going wrong, but do make predictions. Take people's charts. You will go wrong many times. I went wrong. Everybody goes wrong. But unless you dive in, you will not learn. Just by listening to my lectures, you will not learn fully. You will learn only to some extent. Look at charts. Make those mistakes. Tell people some predictions. Ask them, did you get married in 98, between 98 and 2000? They will probably say no. But that will allow you to look at the correct reason. So look at some charts and experiment. Do that in the next few months. And my guess is after September, you will start getting it right. Basically, when you make predictions will start coming right. And when it comes to which deity you should pray to, does anybody want to venture and suggest some god? Who will give him that scholarship? He is learning occult knowledge, but it has to be converted into scholarship.
You go to D20 for it, or should you see from Mars?
I see it from D20.
Mars and Moon is the one who's more connected.
Moon is the one who is connected to 5th house and 2nd house. He is the dispositor of the 11th lord, he is the 5th lord, and he is in the 2nd house. He is connecting 3 of those houses, Panasarat. So Moon is the key. So who should he pray to? Krishna. Moon shows Krishna. So if he prays to Krishna, then that knowledge will come to him. The scholarship will come to him. All the occult learning that he is doing in this class will be converted into scholarship, and it will enable him to make good predictions. So I advise you to pray to Krishna.
About Narasimha with Mars, that won't help in this case?
See, any god will help, but directly Moon will show Krishna. Once you are comfortable with your astrological learning and you are bothered about your correctness of prediction, then Narasimha can help you. Mars in this chart basically shows good prediction, good speech, good resources in learning. That's what Mars shows. On the other hand, what does Moon show? He shows occult learning, that being converted into scholarship, and that scholarship being used in making predictions, because he is the linker between 11th, 5th and 2nd. Mars is just the 2nd lord is 2nd. He doesn't link other things. So once you are bothered about your predictions, you can pray to Narasimha. For now, you are bothered about converting this learning into knowledge, into scholarship, and converting the scholarship into readings. So for that you need Moon. So if you pray to Krishna, that will be very beneficial for you. And your time will come. You will, looking at this D24 chart, I'm very confident that you will be a good astrologer. You will make excellent predictions, especially in 2007-2009 time frame. You will be, actually at the time elections will come. So by that time, be ready and you will predict the next president. That is my prediction. You will predict the next president.
Now, in this case, will the Rasi have any significance at all? In my case, Moon is Varvarma, Rasi and Navamsa. Will that have any significance? And it's the 5th house. It's the 5th house.
See, you can use the Rasi chart also, but when you are focused on a particular area, it's better to just stick to D24. Yeah, that will work.
One quick question since we hit on the topic anyway. Also, in this case, 5th house of scholarship in Rasi chart also.
Yeah.
You look at it,
But 5th house is Rasi chart. It shows your scholarship, it shows your abilities, it shows your children, it shows so many things.
But do you actually consider the lord of that planet and see the position of that in D24?
Yes. If the 5th lord in the Rasi chart, if he is badly placed in D24, that is not conducive to good learning. This is a general statement. This is not about occult knowledge or any specific knowledge. When you want to know about specific knowledge, whether somebody is good in math or somebody is good in engineering, whether somebody is good in occult, you better go to D24. But to see whether somebody is intelligent in general, is a scholar in general, look at the 5th lord. Who is the 5th lord here? Mars. He is in Moola Trikona in D24. So in general, he is a very intelligent person. That is what you can say. Right? And look at Jupiter. Jupiter is the 4th lord. Because 5th is the house of scholarship, but 4th is the house of actually learning things. And how is Jupiter here in D24? He's actually in the 8th house, in an inimical house. So when it comes to learning things, he's not necessarily the greatest learner. He's a very smart person. Finally, he will have a lot of scholarship. 5th house is the final scholarship that you have. But the fourth house is the process of building the scholarship, the process of assimilating things, the process of learning things. It is the house of learning. And the fourth lord in Rashi chart, he is not so well placed in the D24 chart. So in general, throughout his life, in general, he is not a great learner. He is an intelligent person who learns things well, but when he learns things, there is a lot of difficulty because 8th house, he needs to go through lot of steps, lot of difficulty or pressure or there is something undesirable there, and then the knowledge will come to him.
But the precise question,
this is not about astrology.
No, not about astrology. That is the precise question as far as applicable to astrology as well. Such kind of conditions are what that can be tuned with the mantras to enable you.
Exactly. So if this person, so look at Jupiter. Jupiter is the planet. If at all he has any difficulty in learning, if such a person comes to you and says, now he learned everything, he's an engineer, he's all set in life. But if he comes to you when he's still in high school, if he asks you, I'm not really able to learn things, he's always questioning things and he's not able to learn quickly, let's say, he's not able to grasp quickly because he wants to dig deep. The 8th house is also the house of digging deep and understanding everything, not just superficial understanding. So such a person may want to understand all the details, and that may be hampering his progress in learning. But once he learns perfectly, because Mars is strong, the 5th lord of Rashi chart. So if that person comes to you, Jupiter, that can show Jagannatha, it can show Dakshinamurti, it can show Mahavishnu. So you can tell him to pray to Dakshinamurti. That will make that person a good learner. So that is how you use. If you look at my chart, for example, my 4th lord is Jupiter. In my D24, he is in Pisces. He is in own sign. He is in a Kendra. He gives Hamsa Yoga. So I was always a very good learner. Whenever you show something to me, you say one sentence, I can guess the next 10 sentences. That is the way I learn. I am very intuitive and it just seems so natural to me. I don't have to be challenged to learn. Things become so simple for me. And even if you look at the 5th lord, he is well placed in my D24. So because 4th and 5th lord are both fine, basically I learn well and I also grasp well and I retain well. Basically, let me put it this way. 4th house is grasping and 5th house is retention. It is the scholarship. That is the difference between the two. So both are important. Look at the Rashi lord of both houses in D24. That will give you a clue of how good a learner somebody is and how good a retainer somebody is. And that can also give you clues on which god you can worship to improve either area. Okay? So my advice is pray to Krishna and that will stand you in good stead. Especially this Mars is in, this moon is in Martian sign, Aries, with Mars. So any form of Krishna which is associated with war, not Krishna who is romancing gopis. That kind of Krishna if you pray, that's not the ideal Krishna here. The form of Krishna is seen from moon with Mars in Aries. So if you for example have a picture of Krishna at the time of Vitopadesa, for example, who was with Arjuna in a battlefield, who was teaching Arjuna in a battlefield. If you have such an image, if you keep that image in your mind, or if you have an image of Krishna as a warrior, as killing Shishpala or somebody, if you have such an image, Krishna either as a warrior or in the battlefield, think of that image when you are praying. That will be even more auspicious. That will be very beneficial as far as astrological learning is concerned. Okay. So let's.
That's why before you go, D24 there is a yoga there, right? Chandramangal yoga.
Yeah.
Was it?
It's a very good yoga.
Results should show that yoga in the moon dasa, moon or Mars dasa.
Antardasa. Dasa is not coming anytime soon, unfortunately. Right now it is Saturn Dasa. So Dasa is not running. But when the Antardasa comes, the results will show. What he said is, there is a great Raj Yoga. The 5th Lord Moon, the 9th Lord Mars are conjoined. And the Lagna Lord Jupiter is opposite them. He is also affecting them. So Lagna Lord, 5th Lord and 9th Lord are on that axis. Which axis? 2nd and 8th axis. The important axis for astrology. So, even though he tells you that he is not able to spend a lot of time on astrology and he just started astrology in May. He didn't really have a lot of background in the past, if I remember right. And he is spending only 2 hours every week. He says that he's not getting enough time to spend outside of this class. But looking at this nice Raj Yoga on the 2nd 8th axis, he is destined to be a good astrologer. So even if he spends very little time, he will end up as a good astrologer. It's just a matter of time, maybe a couple of years. But he will become a good astrologer. When you see somebody with such a strong Siddhamsa, strong second and eighth house in the Siddhamsa, you can conclude that that person will be a good astrologer. If the
strong 8th house?
Because it's not really strong, but the 8th house contains Lagna Lord.
Right.
Jupiter. Jupiter is a very important planet for astrological learning.
Okay.
And that Jupiter is in the 8th house. Jupiter in 2nd or 8th is very good for astrology. Jupiter or Mercury. So Jupiter is in the 8th house, and more importantly, on 2nd and 8th axis, there is a Raj Yoga. That is why 8th house becomes important. 2nd and 8th house both become important because they contain Lagna Lord, 5th Lord and 9th Lord. So that yoga between those three planets is a great Raj Yoga. When I say Raj Yoga, it doesn't mean you will become a king. You will become a king in learning. That means you will learn well. That's all it means. So don't think that you will be Prime Minister or President. This is Raj Yoga in D24. So when such a person comes to you and asks you whether you can teach him astrology, if he wants to be your student, jump and accept. I didn't see your D24 until today, but if somebody with this kind of D24 comes, you should jump and accept them as your student, because you don't need thousands of students. You just need 1 or 2 really good students. They will keep the knowledge basically flowing from one generation to another generation. So you are destined to become a very good astrologer and all the rest. And try to spend some more time outside of the class. Maybe an hour.
That's what we are going to do.
Yeah. And if you look at any chart, if things don't make sense, bring it to the class like others have been doing, and other people will help you. If not, I will help you. So we can make progress together. So, now I want to throw up Rajiv Gandhi's chart. Rajiv Gandhi, India's ex-Prime Minister. He was born on August 20, 1944 at 7:12:45 a.m. Indian Standard Time. The longitude is 72 degrees 49 minutes east. The latitude is 18 degrees 58 minutes north. Now, I don't want to open the chart. I want you to look at the chart, and if you did not know any Dasha calculations, if you did not know when which Dasha was running, which Dasha would you predict to make him Prime Minister? What is the Dasha that you expect to make him Prime Minister of India? Who gives that political power in this chart? That is what I want you to look at. Who is the significator of political power? Which planet gives political power? And how is Sun placed in Dashamsa? Is there any chance that he will be a Prime Minister or a big political leader? Is there any chance in this chart?
Sun is Ketu.
Yeah. Sun is in the 10th house. In D10, if Sun is in the 10th house, can that person be a politician? He can become a political leader. He can become a powerful person, right? And that too, Sun is not a bad planet here. Had the Sun been 8th Lord, if 8th Lord is in 10th or something, it is bad. But if the 9th Lord, 9th shows Purva Punya, things that come easily. 9th house and 5th house, like I said earlier, are things that come very simply, just because you deserved it, based on what you did in the past life. On the other hand, the quadrants will show things that come with effort. And Dusthanas will show things that will need lot of effort to get. If a Dusthana Lord is in the 10th house, whatever career he shows will come with lot of effort. If a quadrant Lord is in 10th house, whatever career he shows comes with some effort. If a trine Lord is in the 10th house, whatever career he shows, it comes with no effort. It comes just easily, very naturally. And here, the 9th Lord Sun is in the 10th house. So a political career or a powerful position comes to him very simply. And which Dasha do you expect it to come in? Yes, that is the other question. Should it be Sun Dasha or Ketu Dasha? Why? Because of the exchange rule. Will the exchange rule work for Sun and Ketu? The reason, not really. Why?
Because only stronger planet will take the exchange.
That is one aspect of it, but the other aspect is, when you say two people exchange a result, we two are staying in one room, so we become so close that you do my things and I do your things. But if we are utter enemies, even if we are staying in one room, we will stay in 2 different corners and we will not do each other's job, right? So like that, I mentioned this in another example also. If Sun and Jupiter are together, Sun can give Jupiter's results and Jupiter can give Sun's results. But if Sun and Ketu are together, Ketu wants to eclipse Sun. Ketu wants to ruin Sun. They are utter enemies. He is the worst enemy of Sun. So when Sun and Ketu are together, if you tell Ketu, hey, give Sun's results, and if you tell Sun, hey, give Ketu's results, they will not be happy. They will not want to give each other's results. They will want to obstruct each other's results. Sun will want to obstruct Ketu's results and Ketu will want to obstruct Sun's results. So when it comes to that exchange of results rule, you have to apply it judiciously. It doesn't work always. Especially when you have enemies who are working with totally different agendas, it will not work. So here, whose dasha do you expect to make him politician? Sun. Of course, if you say Ketu, still I would have given you 60% marks because it's a good guess. Even though exchange doesn't work there, it's a good guess. But
if any time there's enemies,
yeah,
in the same house,
yeah,
as a matter of rule, then the results won't be exchanged.
The results won't be exchanged in such cases. Yeah, yeah, absolutely.
The Sun, for example, today Mars and Saturn.
If Moon and Rahu are together, it's very likely that Moon will give Moon's results and not Rahu.
So that is, of course, Rahu and Ketu, I can understand. They affect most of the other ones.
Not all. If they are, for example, with Mercury or Venus or Shani, they are happy with it. It's basically the luminaries that they hate because of the story in the story of the Graha of Kurmavatar in the story. Sun and Moon saw when Vishnu gave them Amritam, the nectar. Sun and Moon saw it and they told Narayana, and then Vishnu or Mohini basically cut off their head, and that is why they did not become immortal. I mean, they became immortal, but they became immortal head and immortal tail rather than immortal person. So that is why they hate Sun and Moon, because they were the ones who broke the news, who spilled the beans, so to say. So they hate Sun and Moon. So always Rahu and Ketu hate Sun and Moon. Other planets, they are not that bad. They don't affect them that badly. Yes. Mars is another planet that is badly affected by nodes.
Jupiter was in the same house.
Yeah. I would have expected Jupiter to give Sun's results.
Jupiter to give Sun's results.
Yes.
And what would have happened in Sun's special?
He would give Jupiter's results.
What about Ketu? Actually, I recall you having said that you arrange all the planets in order of 9 sequence.
Oh, you are saying not Jupiter replacing Ketu. You are saying Jupiter, Ketu and Sun are there. Okay.
So what happens now? What's the order? Who's going to give
Ketu, Sun and Jupiter.
Okay, you have Jupiter, Sun and Ketu. So if you arrange them in the order of beneficence, it is basically Jupiter, Sun and Ketu. So Sun will give his own results and Jupiter and Ketu will end up exchanging their results. And they don't have problem giving each other's results. They will not say, no, I will not give his results, I will give my results. So they will end up giving each other's results.
What about, in case of Raji's Lagna,
Yeah.
Rashida, there are 5 planets, right?
Yeah.
So what happens to arrange them?
See, you are bothered about it if you want to make predictions about the physical matters. If you want to, Rasi is basically physical existence. If you want to time events relating to physical life, physical events, then you have to worry about all those things. If you are bothered about his career, forget all those 5 planets in Rasi chart. That is another factor. When there are so many planets in one sign, if you are using just Rasi chart, it becomes so complicated to give any readings because every planet is influencing every house by conjunction with the Lord. So all results are possible in all dashas. So that is illogical. On the other hand, if you look at the divisional chart, things become so clear. Now let me open the dasha, and let me open the dasha. He became the Prime Minister of India. Does anybody remember when? 84 October. His mother was assassinated, and sometime at the end of 84 October or beginning of 84 November.
The same day you are supposed to...
Same day, I don't remember the exact date, but it is 84 October end, or maximum November beginning, November first few days. It's basically that time period. If you look at the Vimshottari Dasha started from Moon, what is the Dasha running then? Rahu Dasha. Does it make any sense to you that Rahu gave him political power? Rahu is the Lord of 3rd house in the 4th house. He is aspecting all these planets. And honestly, if you didn't know that he was Prime Minister, if you were just given this chart blindly, it was a blind chart for you, and or let's say this person came to you in 1980 and asked you, will I become Prime Minister of India in 1984? Honestly, based on Vimshyoti Dasha, would you have said that he would be Prime Minister of India? How many of you say, yes, I would have predicted? How many of you say, no, I don't think I could have predicted that confidently?
Just Rahu, that's why I wouldn't have.
So most of you are confused and some of you are confident.
I'm confused.
Okay, what is your confusion?
No.
Don't think that you have to justify it because it happened.
Oh.
That is wrong approach. Wrong approach. If something makes sense, use it. If something doesn't make sense, you are missing something. That is the point. That is what I am trying to get at. Maybe Vinchotri is not the right dasha. We will come to that later. But first tell me whether it makes sense. Now you can just give me honest opinion. You don't have to somehow justify. Honestly, is Rahu capable of giving him political power? Make him the Prime Minister of a country, of a big country.
You want to say no?
You want to say no? Good. I am happy with that answer. That's what I wanted. Now let us look at Navamsa. Let us look at Navamsa. He got married in 1968. He fell in love in 1966-67 period with Sonia Gandhi. He finally got married in 1968. Which dasha did he get married in? Using Vimshyoti Dasha. Vimshyoti Dasha, moon was from 1964 to 1974. He fell in love and got married in moon Dasha. Again, is moon capable of giving him marriage?
Well, moon is with the nicer planet of Venus.
Venus, in the Navamsa, yes.
So Venus is a Karaka, but of course the 7th house Lord, Saturn is in his own house.
Yeah.
7th Lord.
Now forget whether moon can give the result. If you were going to predict when he would get married, which Mahadasha would you have picked? Honestly.
Saturn.
Look at the Rashi Navamsa both and tell me. How many of you say Saturn? Lot of people. Others who did not give Saturn, what would you pick and why?
Venus.
Venus, why?
Venus is the ninth lord.
He is the 10th and 3rd lord. He is debilitated in the 2nd house.
I said that.
Okay. So, the 3 people who did not choose Saturn, you get a second chance. Do you want to choose Saturn or some other planet? See, you can choose another planet, but it has to be reasonable. Then I will accept it. Look at the Rashi. Look at the 7th house. Because 7th house is the house of marriage. And Upada. Right? Upada is in Virgo. Mars is in it. Mercury owns it. And 7th lord is Saturn. And now go to Navamsa. In the Navamsa chart, 7th house is Saturn. 7th lord is Saturn. And he occupies it also. The 7th lord is occupying the 7th house. With good Digbala. So definitely Saturn is a strong candidate. Now who are the other candidates?
Mars can also come.
Mars. In the Navamsa he is Upada Lord. In Rashi he is in the Upada. So Mars is another candidate, strong candidate. Right? Does everybody agree with that? So, but looking at all the factors, who do you think is the strongest candidate? If you didn't know any dasas, if you didn't know any facts, you were just honestly predicting based on the principles, based on simple basics, which dasha would you pick? Saturn, right? Now, it happened in moon dasha. Is moon capable of giving him marriage? Well, he is. Every planet is capable of giving him marriage. Moon is with Venus, the Karaka of marriage in Navamsa, and in the Rashi chart, he is aspecting the 7th house, along with so many other planets. 7th house has 2 lords, and all these planets are aspecting 7th house. So if you use the 7th house aspect as a criterion, basically there are 7 planets which can, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 planets which can basically give that result, right? So basically there is no strong logic that tells you that moon would have given that result. Moon dasha would have given that result. Now, let us go to conditional dashas. Yes, leave that. First let us see what doesn't work. Is the 7th lord in Lagna or Lagna lord in 7th? The Lagna lord Sun is in Lagna. The 7th lord Saturn is in 11th. The other 7th lord is in 12th. So Dvisaptati Samadasha does not apply. Is the 10th lord in 10th house? No. Chaturasi Samadasha does not apply. Is Lagna in Navamsa in a Venusian sign?
You see, all is only in Rasi, right? All
Yes.
only in Rasi.
Yes. So let us directly jump to the dasha that Sri Ram has been shouting for a few minutes. Sun is in Lagna. It's a very salient feature of this chart. He has Sun in Lagna. If Sun is in Lagna, what is the Dasha that applies? It is called Shashti Hayani Dasha or Shashti Samadasha. So this is applicable if Sun is in Lagna. Now, if you look at this Dasha, he fell in love and he got married in
68, 70 or something. 68, 70.
No, it was 68. 68. I don't know whether it was before March or not, but basically the process of falling in love and the marriage being settled all happened way before 68. It was in Saturn Dasha. I don't know if the formal wedding came in Saturn Dasha or Rahu Dasha. In any case, Rahu also owns Aquarius. When you're talking about Aquarius, there are two lords, Shani and Rahu. But I don't know when the formal ceremony took place, but everything happened basically in Shani Dasha.
Why a love marriage?
Shani gives a traditional.
Yeah. Shani is very traditional.
Yes.
So love marriage is usually you have Venus and Moon associated.
Venus and Moon associated with the 6th house or A7. We will come to that later. It is irrespective of the Dasha. Why he fell in love and married, that is a different matter. And why a foreigner. So we will address it a little later after we are done with the Dasha. Now first, looking at the Dashas, he got married in Shani Dasha, and Shani is the planet that we identified. Now see when he became the Prime Minister of India. He became the Prime Minister of India in Sun Dasha. In 84 March, Sun Dasha started. Very soon, within a few months, his mother was assassinated, and suddenly Prime Ministership of India was thrust upon him. He became the Prime Minister. Yes?
Can we tie the mother's dimension with the leadership power?
Yes, we can. We will do that.
One thing is that in 10th house, fourth lord is in Lagna in 10th, D10.
Fourth Lord.
That means it is power from mother, that karma.
We will see. We have to correlate the Dvadashamsa with Dasamsa. Because Dvadashamsa shows mother and Dasamsa shows career. If there is a link between mother and career, it has to be seen by correlating D12 and D10. How we correlate the two charts, I will show in a few moments. But let us see, let us first see that it was Sun Dasha, Sun Antardasha. As soon as Sun Dasha came, he became Prime Minister. What was the Dasha before Sun Dasha? Jupiter Dasha. Jupiter is a very good planet for career because he is the Lagna Lord in Dashamsa. If you see Dashamsa, he is the Lagna Lord, but he doesn't really show political power. He is in a Dharma Trikona. He is not in Artha Trikona. He is in a Dharma Trikona. So the person will be basically more dharmic, and he is not, pardon me? Very righteous. He is interested in righteous activities rather than political power, influence, etc. And as soon as Sandasha came, it was forced on him. The world of politics was forced on him. He suddenly became the Prime Minister. And now can you tell me what is possible in Venus Antardasha in Sandasha? Using the principles that I taught you for judging Antardashas, just do simple analysis. In Sandasha, Venus Antardasha, he had second elections. In 89 November, he went for the next election. If he came to you before elections and asked you, should I go for elections in 89 November, what would you have told him?
No.
Why?
Because the Bhaka was the 8th.
Bhoga. So if you count from Mahadasha Lord Sun in Virgo to Antardasha Lord Venus in Aquarius, it is 6 signs. If you count 6 signs from Venus, you end up in Cancer. And Cancer contains 8th house. If the Bhoga is in the 8th house, it is good for occult learning. If you are engaged in occult activities, it is good. But if you are engaged in political activities, it is bad. 8th house shows some setback. It could be loss of power also, but at least some big setback. So if the Bhoga in a particular Antardasha is in the 8th house, you will be a fool to carry out elections in that Antardasha. It is a good idea. It would have been a good idea for him to basically prepone those elections to Mercury Antardasha, for example. Had he had those elections 6 months earlier, he would probably be in power. But he went for those elections in November. Unfortunately, he fell. So Venus Antardasha can give the fall of power. So you have a question, Sriram?
Yeah, I'm looking at Mercury.
Yeah.
Actually, it was second house like the first house.
It is in the second house.
Bhoga falls second.
The Bhoga in Mercury Antardasha in Sandasha falls in the second house. It's not that bad. It doesn't show great power or anything. But again, that second house has the 8th lord. So it shows, that period shows some tension, some problems, etc. But it's not as bad as the Venus Antardasha. So that would have been a better Antardasha to carry out any election, to try his luck at being re-elected. Okay, now let's go to Kiran's question. First, let's go to deep work. Now, his mother, in Sandasha, Sanantardasha, he got political power through his mother's death. When his mother died, he inherited the political power. Why? Does anybody want to venture any guess?
Actually, 4th house tells mother. 4th house is Mars.
Yeah.
He is in 6th house of karma. Means
4th house is Mars.
no, 4th house in the
Rashi chart. Okay, you are looking at 4th house in D12. Okay.
That's Mars is the owner of the.
Mars is the owner of the 4th house in D12. Okay.
Why are you looking at D12?
Because D12 shows mother. I want to see mother's career and how that was inherited by him. When you want to correlate some career activity that has a link with your father or mother, or if you want to correlate learning activity that has a correlation with father or mother, you have to correlate those dashas. So I want to correlate his D12, which shows mother, to D10, which shows his career, and see the link, why son gave him political power through his mother, through the death of his mother.
Now, in D12, we take the lord of the house is the Lagna for the man itself, or not? It's actually the house itself.
The house itself.
The 4th house is the Lagna. But anyway,
Yeah.
Mars and Sun are associated.
Yeah.
They are sitting actually in the 9th house of that.
Yeah.
That is 9th house.
Go ahead, keep going.
Sun is the lord of the 8th house.
Yeah.
Saying the 4th house, mother.
He is in 6th house in
That is
obstacle.
6th house for her, Mars and Sun. So why would Sun, actually Aruda Lagna is also there, but only that's for him. What about mother? For the mother's death, the Aruda house and mother.
Forget the death. Does sun show mother's power?
I think the Mars and Sun being associated.
Yeah.
That some of the power.
Basically, forget even that. Forget sun. Is mother capable of being a politician?
Very much.
Why?
I would think.
If you take the 4th house as Lagna in Dvadashamsa, Aries, so from there, Mars and Sun, even though they are in 6th house, for malefics in the 6th house, is it good or bad? Mars and Sun in the 6th house, are they well placed or badly placed?
It's good.
It's a very good placement for them. It's one of the only 3 good placements for them. Let me restart the recording. I didn't restart this. Okay. So, in the 6th house they are well placed. Now what is their agenda? Even if they are well placed, if their agenda is not to give her political power, they will not give political power. Actually, before that, let me back off and say one point. Sun and Mars in the 6th house show a mother who is very ruthless. 6th house shows how you pursue your enemies. If she has enmity with somebody, she will destroy them. Through malefics in the 6th house, that will make somebody a very materialistic person and a ruthless person. 3rd house will give lot of bravery, but 6th house will give ruthlessness in actually finishing off the enemy. So Indira Gandhi was known as an iron lady. And of course, if you look at her chart, you will see the reasons better. But even in Rajiv Gandhi's chart, it shows that mother will be a ruthless lady. And now, what is their agenda? Those planets, Sun and Mars, unless their agenda is to give her power, they will not give her power. What is their agenda?
Lord of 5th house. Sun is the lord of 5th house.
Sun is the lord of 5th house and Mars is the lord of 1st house. The 1st and 5th lords are together. Can they give political power? Basically, they can give power. And the planets being Sun and Mars, can they give political power? Yes, Sun is the planet of political power and Mars is the secondary planet of political power. So Sun and Mars being Lagna and 5th lord conjoined in an Upachaya, they can definitely give political power to mother. And now, the same Sun is in the 10th house in Dashamsa. So the sun in the 10th house in Dashamsa shows political power, and the same sun in D12 is showing a powerful mother. So it can show that the sun can basically carry from the mother's power to his power. So when you see a link, a particular planet is showing mother's power in D12 and his power in the D10, it is possible that he will inherit that power from mother. On the other hand, if the same sun has shown power of father, he could have inherited it from father. Now let's look at D12.
Can you come again? How did you figure out the power of mother from D12?
Fifth house, the 4th house in D12 will show mother. So the 5th house from there will show mother's power. The 10th and 5th are the house of power. 5th is the house of influence and 10th is the house of kingdom, actual crown. So the Lagna Lord Mars and the 5th Lord Sun, taking Aries as Lagna, forget the real Lagna. Now Aries is the Lagna now because we want Indira Gandhi. We want to judge her. So Lagna Lord Mars and 5th Lord Sun are together. So that gives a Raj Yoga. So Sun and Mars are the planets who give her political power. Okay? And it is the same planets who are giving power here. Mars is the 5th Lord here and Sun is the planet in the 10th house. So especially the power given in Sun's Dasha, it can come because of mother. Now, let us see father. Let us see Firoz Gandhi. If you take the 9th house as Lagna, Virgo is the Lagna. And Sun and Mars are in Lagna. So does it show, if Sun and Mars are in Lagna, does it show somebody who is very aggressive and who is very idealistic? If Sun is in Lagna, one is very idealistic, like I said earlier. And if Mars is in Lagna, one is very aggressive. So he is a very aggressive, enterprising and idealistic person. But do Sun and Mars promise him political power or not? Is he likely to be a very influential person politically? His mother is, because Sun and Mars have a Raj Yoga being Lagna and 5th Lord. But for Firoz Gandhi, Sun and Mars are 8th and 12th Lord. So is he likely to be a very influential person politically, or is he likely to be a deprived person politically? Deprived. He is a very aggressive and idealistic person, but not a very influential person. Okay? So the power that he gets in his Dashamsha is not inherited from father. It is inherited from his mother. Right? And look at the father-in-law. Mother, not father-in-law, I meant grandfather, Jawaharlal Nehru. 4th house will show mother. From there, if you take the 9th house, from Aries you take the 9th house, that is Sagittarius. So father-in-law is Sagittarius, not father-in-law, why do I keep saying it? Grandfather, the maternal grandfather is Sagittarius. From there, if you see Sun and Mars, they are in the 10th house of Karma, Artha Trikona. And are they beneficial? In Firoz Gandhi's chart, they are bad. In Indira Gandhi's chart, they are good. In Jawaharlal Nehru's chart, are Sun and Mars good or bad? 5th Lord Mars and 9th Lord Sun conjoined in the 10th house. Great yoga. 5th and 9th Lord conjoining in a Kendra is excellent Raj Yoga. So, Sun and Mars are promising great power to grandfather. So it is actually possible that grandfather was a big politician, and mother got that political power from grandfather, and he got it from them.
So grandfather is very righteous.
Pardon me? Jupiter in Lagna, you would say very righteous, yes. You would say that based on that, you would say that grandfather is a very righteous person. And from Sagittarius, Venus is in 4th house, exalted Venus in the 4th house. So you will also say that, you can also say that he is a Malavya Yoga person. And to see which dominates, whether Hamsa will dominate for grandfather or Malavya will dominate, because Venus is exalted, you will say that Malavya will dominate. So he is a very Malavya Yoga kind of person.
What is Malavya Yoga?
These are the 5 Mahapurush Yogas that we mentioned a couple of times in the past. Jupiter being any of the 5 planets, Jupiter, Venus, Saturn, Mars and Mercury, if they are in a Kendra and if they are exalted or in Mula Trikona or in own house, that's a Mahapurush Yoga. That makes the person a great person. And if the planet is Jupiter, he will be very righteous and dharmic. He will be very noble, people will respect him and follow him. If the planet is Venus, he will have all kinds of luxuries. He will love luxuries, he is a nice poet, rich person. All the Venusian qualities will be there. If the planet is Mars, it will be a very aggressive person, a very good organizer, very good warrior. And if the planet is Mercury, he's a scholar who takes care of everybody around him, all his relatives. He's a very learned person and very capable person. If the planet is Shani, it will be somebody who will be ruthless, who will have a lot of servants, and who will make people work hard. He will also work hard, and he will make people work hard and achieve things. So these are the 5 Mahapurusha Yogas. And when you have 2 Mahapurusha Yogas, you have to judge which one is stronger. And the typical rule is, the thumb rule is, the exalted planet will dominate over planets in Mola Trikona, and planets in Mola Trikona will dominate over planets in one sign. Exaltation, Mola Trikona and one sign. That is the order of precedence. Here, taking Sagittarius as Lagna, there are 2 Mahapurusha Yogas. One given by Jupiter in Mola Trikona, the other one given by Venus in exaltation. And Venus will dominate. So he's a Malavya Yoga person. He's a Bhoga Purusha. To use a fancy word. Yeah, he loves luxuries, he loves comfort. He's very romantic, he's very creative. So that is what you can say about the grandfather, maternal grandfather. And of course, in Jawaharlal Nehru's chart, if you see the chart, I believe he has Venus in the 4th house. He has Cancer Lagna, if I remember right. Moon, Venus and Moon. He has Libra Lagna with Venus and Moon in Lagna, maybe. But he does have Malavya Yoga. Nehru. You don't want... Yeah, what I said is right. He has Cancer Lagna with Moon in it, and he has Venus in Mola Trikona in the 4th house. And Rajiv Gandhi's D12 is showing from Sagittarius, which shows grandfather. Venus is exalted in the 4th house. So there is a connection between the two. Typically there will be some connections. If you look for them, you will find connections. But going back to the D12, looking just at D12, if you look at Rasi chart, you can't figure out all these things. But if you look at D12, you can directly figure out that grandfather could be a very influential person, a great political leader. Mother could also be a political leader. And father is an idealist who doesn't have the political clout. And again, his Dashamsa shows political power. So you can correlate all these things. Okay? Now suppose you want to see Saptamsa. Children. Is Sonia, not Sonia, Priyanka elder or Rahul? Does anybody know? Priyanka is elder, right? Rahul is younger. Okay, that's what I thought. So, should you, Lagna is in an even sign, should you count backwards or forward?
Backwards.
You should count backwards because it's an even sign. So if you count backwards, the first child is given by Ketu is there, so there can be a problem in getting the child, but the Lord Moon is with Venus. When Venus or Jupiter are involved, they can save, basically from young coming. And the first child is it a boy or a girl? Moon is with Venus, even though in a male sign, she is with Venus. So it can be a girl, and she may have a strong Venusian influence in the chart. I don't know Priyanka Gandhi's chart. If anybody has it, please give it to me. I will be very interested in seeing her chart. But it is possible that she has a strong Venus or Moon in her chart. And now, what about the sun, the next sun? If you look at Taurus, which shows the next child, the Lord is?
But Ketu should end.
Yes, Ketu should normally end. But because the Lord of that sign and the next sign, Venus, they are together.
Oh, okay.
When Venus or Jupiter is involved with the next pregnancy, they can make you go to the next pregnancy. There can be one more pregnancy.
So in this case, Venus is with Moon, the Lord of...
Actually, 1 minute. Let us leave the Saptamsa. I'm not really sure if this is right. Ketu in the first pregnancy could have given actually an abortion, and the next one could be Priyanka, and the next one could be Jupiter in Libra, could be Rahul Gandhi. So my suspicion is there may have been actually an abortion before Priyanka Gandhi was born, but we don't know these things in the case of such powerful people. So it's a good idea actually not to look at the substance. I want to see if Priyanka or Rahul Gandhi have a chance of political power, because we saw 2 generations up. We can also see a couple of generations down. I wanted to do that, but I have my doubts. So Instead of speculating, it's better to just leave this particular chart. And now talking about the correlation between divisional charts. Yes.
You know, anyway, the first child is Venus is you know the Lagna of Priyanka. You could take Lagna.
Either way, Lagna of Priyanka is Sagittarius, you are saying. Very good point. Yeah. Only issue is with Rahul Gandhi, we have a bit of problem. With Rahul Gandhi, it will be either
He seems to be the politics man.
he is so at this point. Yeah.
There are predictions that she's going to enter politics.
Yeah, I know. But I haven't seen her chart, so I can't say it. But what Sriram said is right. Irrespective of whether there was an abortion before Priyanka Gandhi or not, the Paka that shows Priyanka is in Sagittarius. So let us take Sagittarius as Lagna and see. And let us not use the Dashas now because it is way past his death time. So Dashas may or may not be working at this point of time. So let us ignore the Dashas. But let us look at just the chart and see if his daughter has a potential to be a political leader. And now look from Sagittarius. How are Sun and Mars placed? Sun is in the 9th house, in the Dharmasthana. What exalted?
No, not exactly.
He's in one side. Mona Trikona is also Aries for Sun.
The first 13 degrees is most
I'm confused. Yeah, actually Leo is Monatrikona, you're right. Leo is Monatrikona. So Sun is in Monatrikona. So Sun is in the 9th house. So can this be a big political leader?
No, because it won't have it should be in the 10th house, association or 5th house.
10th or 5th or better. So 9th Lord Sun in the 9th house can show somebody who's very, usually if Sun is in a Dharma Trikona, such a person will have clear ideals and they will be very idealistic. So it shows an idealistic person rather than somebody who will be in power. And looking at this Saptamsa, it is not very likely that she will be a big political leader. But looking at all the indications on the ground, it is very likely. It looks like she will enter politics. She will enter the political fray. But it will be interesting to see her chart. If you have her chart, we will see. But based on this chart, if we just want to engage in honest analysis, the 5th Lord in the 4th house, Mars, even though he is aspecting the 10th house, the 10th house has Saturn. Saturn is the planet of renunciation rather than getting political power. And Sun is in the 9th house, not in 5th or 10th. Sun in the 9th house will show lot of blessings, political blessings. It will show a lot of political influence because 9th is the house of what comes easily. And power comes very easily to her. Even though she is just a housewife. Until recently, she was basically, so many big political leaders were at her feet, even though she was a nobody, strictly speaking. So that is what Sun in the 9th house shows. But I honestly don't expect the Sun to make her the Prime Minister of a country or President of a country. So that is what I would say based on this Saptamsa. But we'll see if we can get hold of her chart. That will be the clincher. Now, yes, marrying a foreigner. That was the next question. Now forget the Dashas. Just look at Rashi and Navamsa. Why did he marry a foreigner? And why was it a love marriage?
Navamsa, I can see in the 5th house, you have A7 and just the Christian.
Yeah. Go ahead. See, what is the formula for love marriage? Moon and Venus are the Karakas, and the important house is 5th house, and the important pada is A7, Dharpada. Okay? Now, where is Dharpada? Dharpada, where in the 5th house? Oh, in the Navamsa you are saying. Yeah. In the Navamsa, Dharpada is in the 5th house, right? And Venus and Moon are
in the 2nd house of Mercury. So there's basically
there's no Parivartana. Sorry. There's no Parivartana. They're simply aspecting it. Yeah, let's not drag it. Just A7 is in the 5th house and Venus and Moon are aspecting it. Right? Even in the Rashi chart, A7, Dharpada, is in a Venusian sign and Venus and Moon are aspecting it. If you look at the signs that aspect this, by Rashi aspect, all these planets are aspecting it. Venus and Moon are also aspecting it. And out of all these planets, Venus aspect is most important because he is the lord of that sign also. Basically, there is a link between Venus and Dharpada. It is in Venus sign. So when you see Dharpada in Venus sign, there is a chance that that person will fall in love.
But even if you wouldn't have guessed that strong.
Yes, based on the Rashi chart, there is an indication, but it is not very strong. But if you look at the Navamsha, A7 is in the 5th house, and Venus and Moon both are aspecting it. So here it is far clearer. In the Rashi chart, it is not so clear, but in Navamsha, it is far clearer. Now, if you ask why Saturn Dasha gave it, I don't have an answer. I don't honestly have an answer. But the fact is, Saturn in the 7th house can give relationship and marriage. And what kind of relationship? You see from A7.
But I think the love problems are in many ways and signs in 52 or 51.
It is possible, yes.
Then if they
Saturn is in the 7th lord, so he actually gave the marriage. That is quite possible. I don't know when they fell in love. But the planets who make him fall in love here are Venus, Moon in Virgo. And being their dispositor and being the planet in A7, Mercury is also capable of making him fall in love. Of course, Mercury Dasha wasn't running in the right time period, but the Antardasha could be Mercury, for example. That's what I'm trying to say. Mercury is a very strong candidate for making him fall in love in this particular chart. Yes, Kiran?
How do you say sun aspect of Rahu, right?
Yeah.
So we are the Rashi frequency of Rahu on 7th. Is that enough to get them to the wife to be a foreigner?
What do you think? Why was she a foreigner?
Yeah, she is a foreigner.
Yeah, why was she a foreigner? What do you think?
I don't know.
The 7th Lord also Rahu.
Oh, the 7th Lord is Rahu.
Actually, we have to take that, we have to see the spouse, Janmasthan.
See, if you see spouse Lagna, then you can say what happens to Sonia Gandhi. We can actually do that. We'll do that a little later. But if you want to see where the spouse will come from, what you have to do is not the 7th house. 7th house will show marriage. If you want to see how and where the spouse will come from, the rule is no, not even Upada. You probably should have seen it somewhere on some list or somewhere. 7th from Venus. Does it ring any bell to you, Kiran? Okay, forget it then. 7th from Venus shows where spouse comes from. 7th house will show what kind of spouse you have, whether your spouse is idealistic or not, whether she is religious or not. All these things you will see from the actual 7th house. But if you want to see where the spouse will come from a faraway place or from a nearby place, or she comes because somebody referred your family to her family, to see all these links of how spouse comes from. You see the 7th from Venus. Okay, that is the rule. So if you see the 7th from Venus, in the Rashi chart, from Venus the 7th lord is, who is the 7th lord from Venus? Saturn and Rahu. Who is stronger lord?
Saturn is strong.
Why?
The Rahu is in Moon side.
Yeah. Oh, that's not the rule. The rule is, first rule is, the first rule is who is with more planets. Both are alone. The second rule is who is aspected by either dispositor or Jupiter or Mercury, by more planets out of them. There is a tie again. Jupiter doesn't aspect either, Mercury doesn't aspect either, and the dispositor is, for Saturn it is Mercury, for Rahu it is Moon, and neither of them is aspected by the dispositor. So the count is 0. So there is a tie. And the next rule is,
But Saturn is in Mercury's house.
that doesn't matter. Mercury has to aspect him. He has to be aspected by either Jupiter or Mercury or dispositor. One of the three. I mean, if more of them aspect, then better. If one of them is aspected by 2 out of those 3 planets, the other one by 1 planet, then the one who is aspected by 2 will win. Here, they are aspected by 0 planets. So that rule doesn't resolve the tie. The next rule is exaltation. Whoever is exalted will win, or whoever is debilitated will lose. Again, you don't have a tie. You still have a tie. And the rule after that is, whoever is in mobile signs loses, fixed signs are better, dual signs are even better. So based on the sign occupied, you resolve the type. I haven't mentioned this rule earlier. This is the next rule. So based on that rule, Saturn is in a dual sign and Rahu is in a mobile sign. So Saturn will win.
First is mobile is strong.
No, dual is strongest. So Rahu will win. Dual is strongest, fixed is next strong, mobile is the weakest. So Saturn will win. So Saturn will show. Saturn, no. Traditional is a different thing. Where the person is coming from.
Far away from. Saturn will show far away.
Saturn and Rahu will show far away things. And also you have to look at the house occupied that planet. If that planet, the lord of the 7th house from Venus, if the planet is, let us say, in the 10th house, it can be at your workplace. If the planet is in the 11th house, it can be a friend. Some friends referred you to her. If the planet is in 3rd house, it can be a friend of your brother. So that is how you see. And here, Saturn is in the 11th house. So it means either somebody who is a friend, somebody referred by a friend, or somebody who is a friend of your elder brother. So those are the indications. And Saturn being the planet, basically it can be somebody who's from a faraway culture. But Navamsa will be the clincher. If you look at the Navamsa, look at Venus. From Venus, the 7th house is Pisces. The Lord is Jupiter. So you see where Jupiter is and what influences on her. Based on it, you will see. And Jupiter is with Rahu. There is a Guru Chandala Yoga. Jupiter is with Rahu. So that very clearly shows a foreigner basically coming as wife.
Because Rahu will be associated.
Yes, Rahu basically afflicting the 7th Lord from Venus. If the 7th Lord himself is Rahu, or 7th Lord is associated with Rahu, it can show somebody who's either from a foreign country or somebody who's considered an outcast in the group. For example, if a Brahmin boy marries let's say a lower caste person, it is considered wrong by traditional people, and that can also be shown by Rahu. Rahu is basically breaking the barriers. So you can't.
North and the south too.
Absolutely. It is basically, you can't with 100% guarantee, you can't say that it will be a foreigner, but you can say that because of Rahu's influence, you can say that it will be an untraditional marriage. It will be somebody, he will fall in love with somebody who's from a different culture. There will be a cultural difference. But here, that Jupiter and Rahu are in the 12th house. So you can even conclude that she will be from a faraway country. So if you look from Venus, the 7th Lord is Jupiter, he is with Rahu in the 12th house from Lagna. When you see the house, you see from Lagna only. So that Jupiter and Rahu are in the 12th house from Lagna. So because of that, you can even conclude it's not only somebody from a different cultural background because of Rahu, but also from abroad, across the seas, because it is Cancer, which is the 12th house. So here it is clear, but not in every chart it is clear.
But whenever you have intercaste marriage, then this is still applicable.
It may not be 12th house, but it will still be, it can still be Rahu's affection can still be there. So if you see somebody comes to you and says, I want to get my daughter married to somebody in my group, in my caste or in my community, if you see something like this, you should be very wary. You should tell the person that there is a chance, so that either they can be cautious or at least they can be prepared for it, mentally prepared. If it can't be avoided, at least be prepared for it. So you should look for these things.
Mr. I have a question.
Yes.
How do you choose fifth house as a Dharapada here?
How do I choose?
How does it Mercury fifth house in Dharapada?
Oh, Dharapada is A7. Arudha of the 7th house. So you just see where is A7 in the chart. And it happens to be the 5th house here.
Oh, okay.
So Dharapada means A7. Okay?
The question the context came. So the first, wife you said comes from 7th house from Venus.
Yeah.
This is the case with, say, 1 second, third, all of them the same?
I don't have a clear answer on this, but what my gurus taught me was, see the 8th from there, and so on. Just applies to some lagna. Yes, 8th rule applies there. That is what I was told. But I haven't really experimented a lot with that particular thing. Okay. Does anybody want to volunteer their chart as an example for this 7th from Venus thing? I mean, any interesting thing then? Okay. Okay, Sriram. Sriram, Kidakkamadam. No, I don't have your chart. Oh, Sriram, SREE.
Maybe Sri Ramakrishna.
Sriram Krishna Paida, yes. Okay. So we are seeing another chart. The data is August 31, 1965 to 9:27 a.m. Indian Standard Time, Kakinada, India. 82 East 13, 16 North 56. Now, look at the 7th from Venus. Look at the 7th Lord from Venus.
In the Rashi chart,
In the Rashi, but let us look at Navamsa, because that is actually better.
the Mars.
Lord of the house is, of course,
Lord of the house is Saturn. He is in Lagna, but basically he is Saturn, he is debilitated. So, is the person that he marries, is the person basically, pardon me? Is this a traditional kind of thing or untraditional? Is there any crossing the barriers involved?
And Argala, Rahu, and second house.
Yes, there is Argala, yes. But even ignoring Argala of Rahu and Shani, the planet is Shani, he is debilitated. He is retrograde and he is debilitated. The planet himself is Shani. So,
Parivartana, it doesn't apply that. Parivartana with Mars and Saturn.
yes, there is a Parivartana. Yes. Basically, if the 7th Lord from Venus is Mars, there is some force involved in that marriage. There will be some force involved. There will be some stubbornness involved. If the planet is Shani, some selfishness. Mars is the planet of force,
Right.
forcefulness and aggression.
That's 7 from
And Shani is the planet of
7 from Venus.
Shani is the planet of selfishness. Shani is the planet of also, see, if the planet is Jupiter or Venus or Moon or some other auspicious planets, then it would be a normal marriage. If the planets involved are Shani and Mars, and they have a Parivartana between Shani and Mars is not auspicious.
So they're actually enemies.
Yeah, they are enemies. One is actually very conservative, selfish kind of person, the other is go and fight kind of person. So there is a Parivartana between them. Had it been Parivartana between Venus and Saturn, it's different. But Parivartana between Mars and Saturn is different. So it shows some confusing influences, some non-traditional, but at the same time some conflicting kind of influences. There is some confusion there. Shani will show confusion, and Mars will show some aggression. So after some confusion, there will be some aggression, and it will result in the marriage. And because of the Parivartana, Shani will not act as if he is in Lagna, but he will act as if he is in 7th house.
7 from Venus. 10th house. 10th house.
Oh, 10th house. Shani will act as if he is in the 10th house. So, one possibility, just based on the theory, one possibility is 10th house, if the Lord of 7th from Venus is in the 10th house, the result is somebody that you know at your workplace or some professional environment. So,
Of course, I've read the college. I've read school here.
okay, so that's not workplace.
That's not work.
Okay, 10th house can also, if you are learning, but if you are also doing some karma there, you can extend it, but it's not very clear basically. What I would have expected based on this is relating to some work, karma, you would have met her. So, if it is at college, but if you met her because of some project in the college or something,
It's through classes and projects.
yeah, if you met her through project, then it makes some sense. But that is one thing. But the other thing is, the Parivartana between Shani and Mars shows some force there, some pressure there, some undesirable influence there, and some fight back and making that marriage. So basically, if elders don't agree, if you are stubborn and because Saturn is debilitated there, Saturn shows elders and Saturn is debilitated, so elders may not be happy with it. But Mars is exalted. Mars is Lagna Lord. That is you. Lagna Lord is you. So you are basically strong and bold because he is exalted. He Exaltation is like the state of being at a party. That is my analogy. So you think it's cool. You think you are very happy with it. You are excited about it, and you just go about it aggressively. Let us see your chart. But based on Rahu's Argala, you can conclude that because Shani is involved and Rahu's Argala is there, you can conclude that there may be some crossing of barriers, but not a foreigner. Another example is June 13, 1949, 10:52 4 a.m. Indian Standard Time, Palayam. Pardon me?
10:55 a.m.
Okay, I have this. I'll use. I don't know why I rectified this. I don't know if it's rectified or. Palayam, Kottai, India, 77 East 44, 8 North 43. So using this data, now let us look at the 7th from Venus. Look in the Navamsa. In the Navamsa, Venus is in Aquarius. The 7th is Sun. He is with Ketu. So, what would you guess? Would you guess that he is married in a very traditional way, or he is married? There is some.
Because Ketu is
Traditional. What is the sun? If it is Saturn, Ketu is even more traditional.
pretty much arranged out.
Okay.
So he's with Ketu and he's
From
Lagna is from Lagna is different.
the
Yeah.
wife is from royal family and traditional.
Why royal family?
Because of sun.
See, if you want to say what kind of family wife is from, look at Upada. Upada will show what kind of family background the wife will come from. You don't look at 7th from Venus for that. 7th from Venus is strictly how the marriage comes about. Is it because it is arranged, or is it because you fell in love, or is it because it's a kulantar vivaha, it is an intercaste marriage, or what are those kind of influences? That you see just by seeing the influences on the 7th Lord from Venus. In my judgment, the 7th Lord from Venus is Sun. Ketu is a planet of traditional marriage and all that is fine. But 7th Lord Sun is not in good company. He is being afflicted by Ketu.
And also in the 8th house.
Yeah, forget the house. He is being afflicted by Ketu. Rahu is also affecting him.
That's right.
See, Navamsa, you see this Rahu Ketu afflicting Sun and Jupiter. So there is a Gurchandala Yoga and Sun is being eclipsed by Ketu here. So, and those things are happening on the axis of 7th Lord from Venus. So don't conclude that Ketu will give traditional marriage. In this context, in this context of Ketu afflicting Sun, it is not likely to be a traditional marriage. Even if it's a traditional marriage, there is some jumping over the barriers involved. Rahu and Ketu will always show, they are basically the Chandalas. If you look at astrology, Sun and Moon are Kshatriyas. Jupiter and Venus are Brahmanas. Like that, there are caste given for each planet. And Rahu and Ketu are, what is their caste? Chandalas. They don't have a caste. They are the lower rung of the society. So if that Ketu is afflicting Sun, and that Sun is the 7th Lord from Venus, you can expect that there is some untraditional thing about that marriage, even if it is Ketu. That Rahu-Ketu axis is not desirable on the 7th Lord axis. Of course, desirable if you want to stick to the traditional way of marriage. Otherwise, you would expect some kind of intercaste or some influence, intersect or some influence in the Navamsa.
Because Ketu and Sun and Moon and Rahu.
It was mine was traditional. Actually, my father and her father went to school together. So it was traditional and horoscope matching and all that. Yeah, same caste, no, nothing.
Okay, so my judgment is wrong.
But only being sure distance, we are looking I was living in Bombay.
Yeah.
So horoscope magic, she was in Madras. That was the only thing. So
Okay.
far away. That's the only.
So for that, the rule is, if you want to see that, the rule is not Lagna. The 7th Lord from Venus, if he is in mobile sign, then the marriage will come to somebody who is living in a faraway place, a long distance. If the planet is in a fixed sign, it is somebody who is living very close to you, who is born around your birthplace, who lives in the same town. Somebody may be born in Machilipatnam, and he may marry somebody who is in Machilipatnam, and he may live in Machilipatnam forever. In that case, the seventh lord from Venus will be in a fixed sign. And if you see dual sign, it is not too far, not too close. It may be somebody who's from the same place but who moved to a slightly different place. Maybe from Machipatam to Hyderabad or from Bombay to Bangalore or something like that. So if the seventh lord from Venus is in a dual sign, in your case it is in a dual sign. So it is not too far away place, not like you are in US and you marry somebody in India. At the same time, it is not from the same town. It is basically a slightly different place. Okay. And if you want to explain the seventh lord from Venus, in Navamsha, Sun is with Ketu. But if you look in the Rashi chart, seventh is basically Jupiter. Seventh house from Venus has Moon, and the seventh lord from Venus is Jupiter. And even though he is debilitated, he is retrograde. So they take him to exaltation. So their very traditional influence is coming because of Jupiter and Moon. So somehow Rashi dominated over Navamsha. Usually Navamsha dominates over Rashi, but somehow Rashi dominated over Navamsha in this case. Anybody else wants to volunteer an example? Just for this factor.
My wife is from Bombay, I am from Hyderabad.
Okay.
Andhra Pradesh.
One second. What is your chart? Yeah. Do I have that Mitnala or no?
My name is a bit confused.
I don't know how I saved it.
Rao.
Yeah, that's what I'm checking.
A question on the...
I don't seem to have it. Okay, Kiran, I'll take yours. I had it, but somehow, yeah, maybe I saved it slightly different name. Okay, Kiran, do I have your chart? Kiran Chandrasekhar. May 21, 1974, 3:58 p.m. Indian Standard Time, Bangalore. 77 East 35, 12 North 59. Okay, what do you conclude? Yeah? Yeah?
So it should be, I would think, love marriage.
Okay.
Venus is there.
Okay. Okay, who is the seventh lord from Venus? Sun.
And Sun is with Venus.
Sun is with Venus, but he is in Aquarius. And the planet is Sun. And see, Venus, love or not, you don't see from the seventh from Venus. For that, let us see Dharpada and other things. Here we are only seeing how the marriage comes about. Is it arranged or is it basically a Kulandar Vivaha? Did they run away and get married? What are the circumstances in which marriage is brought about? Only that you see from the seventh from Venus. So if you see the seventh from Venus, it contains Mercury and its lord is Sun. Sun is the planet of Dharma.
So
Sun is actually even more than Jupiter. Sun is the planet of Dharma.
So he is done according to his own will, not caring for anything else.
Why?
Because it is Sun and
Sun is in
because of Sun.
Yeah. See, what I will say is, we are going on tangents. What I will say is, basically Saturn, Rahu, Ketu, those are not involved here. The planet involved is Sun. Sun, Jupiter, Moon, Venus, these planets will show dharmic path. Not that getting married to somebody else or somebody from a different caste or somebody from a different community is adharma, but that is the way we see it astrologically. If the planet of dharma is associated with the seventh from Venus, the marriage will be very dharmic. Here the planet is Sun, the seventh lord from Venus is Sun, and he is not afflicted by Shani or Rahu or any such planet. So,
he's in good company with Venus.
yeah, he's in good company with Venus. So in his case, it is a very clear marriage brought by parents. And also looking at the planet, if Sun is the planet, it can come because father arranged it. If Moon is the planet, it can come because mother arranged it. If Jupiter is the planet, it can come because elders arranged it. So look at his Navamsa, for example. I was apprehensive about Sun afflicted by Ketu, but the fact is the planet is Sun. So it is likely to come from father's side. Father basically arranging it. And here Here also in Kiran's case, the 7th Lord from Venus is Sun. So it is likely to be from father. On the other hand, if you see 7th Lord from Venus being Moon, let us say, it can come because mother is particular about that particular marriage. Mother may recommend somebody from her family side. And Mars, it can be a brother. Your brother may like a girl, or your brother may get married to a girl, and that girl's sister, she may be ready for marriage, and you may get married. So that is what you can expect if Mars is involved. And if Shani and Rahu, Ketu are involved, it can be something else. It can be some untraditional thing. But looking at all the planets, Jupiter, what would you expect from Jupiter? It can be grandfather. Your grandfather's friend or somebody, your grandfather may be very keen on getting you married to that person. So when you look at the 7th from Venus, what you are looking for is not exactly love marriage. What you are looking for is how the marriage is coming about. Who's bringing the marriage? Which person is playing a role? And whether the marriage is coming from a faraway place or close to your birthplace. It's a fixed sign. So it can be somebody very close. So when I say close, it's not very, I don't get consistent results if I use one definition. There are two definitions. One is where you are living now, one is your birthplace. It can be either somebody who's in Boston right now and you just fall in love and get married, or it is somebody who's from your birthplace. If you are from Bangalore, somebody who's also from Bangalore. So one of those is possible because Sun is in a fixed sign. So when you look at the 7th from Venus, only look at this. How far away the marriage is coming from and who's bringing the marriage. And if Shani or Rahu or Ketu is bringing the marriage, or he's with the planet who's bringing the marriage, it can show the marriage is coming by yourself. You bringing the marriage yourself and breaking some barriers. So that is the rule as far as 7th from Venus is concerned.
Also look at the influence of Mercury at all.
Influence of Mercury can be uncle.
What is it?
Yeah, if the 7th Lord from Venus is Mercury, it will be...
But only Lord is. You don't
Yes.
look at the people.
People in that house can also play a role. So, but the Lord is more important. Because Sun is the Lord and Mercury is there, it can show father and maybe some uncle playing a role in bringing that marriage. So that is what you can conclude, theoretically. But the thing is, it doesn't work always. It works maybe 80% of the time. So in his case, did you have any uncle who played a role? No, right?
Not uncles, but my father's sisters.
Father's sisters. Okay, Mercury, when I say uncles, it can be aunts also. Basically, Mercury is maternal and paternal relations, other relations. So Mercury can show those people playing a role. But Sun is the main planet, so it is basically father's will which controls the marriage. His father's desire or will. So that is what you can say. Okay? Now, yes, go ahead.
Not related to any chart, but in general, last week we considered something that somebody with a long relationship we considered as a first marriage.
Yes.
What happens if somebody after marriage has a relationship at workplace that will show up here? For a long time he has been having.
Yeah.
Does it show up as, how do you consider...
If the relationship comes without breaking the marriage, if somebody is already married and has an extramarital affair, you don't see it from UL. You see it from Dharpada. You just see the influences on Dharpada. If there is a planet, Dharpada is basically a phase. If a planet who is influencing Dharpada has his dasha running right now, there can be an affair. If you know any samples, get the example in the next class, we'll try to look at it. Okay?
But influence the itself, but in Navamsa. A person in Navamsa?
No, Rashi. Yeah.
In Rashi, you have to see.
In Rashi, you look at the Dharpada and see the influences. See, I just want to illustrate one more thing. Because we talked about correlating different divisional charts, the Dvadashamsa and Dashamsa. So let us correlate. I'm opening it mainly because I'm curious. After talking about that correlation, I want to check this chart. This is Sanjay Ji's chart. This chart belongs to Pandit Sanjay Rath, a great astrologer from Puri. His birth date is August 7, 1963, 9:15 p.m. Indian Standard Time, Sambalpur, India, 83 East 58, 21 North 27. First of all, going back to the principles on love marriage, etc., do you think he had a love marriage or an arranged marriage?
You have to go to now.
Yeah, you can look at both Rashi and Navamsa.
Traditional marriage.
Yeah?
Well, I know it.
Yeah, so you keep quiet, please. So if you look at the Rashi chart first, the Dharpada A7 is in Moon's house with Venus in it, and also in the 5th house. So even if Navamsa doesn't really show it, of course in Navamsa also there are some indications, but even if Navamsa doesn't show it, just looking at this Rashi, can you conclude that he had a love marriage? Is it obvious, or do you have any doubts? Okay. Now let us go to his D12 and D24. Yes, indeed he had a love marriage. Now let us look at the Dwadashamsha and D24. I want to see his D12 and D24 because I am curious why knowledge came from his grandfather to him and his uncle. Now if you look at the Dwadashamsha, which house shows father? 9th house. What is that house? Aries with Rahu in it will show father in the D12 chart. Now,
And from there 9th is
if you see grandfather, where is 9th from 9? So that will be Sagittarius. Okay. Now, do you see any indications of grandfather, the paternal grandfather being an astrologer? Is it possible at all? Yeah, good, go ahead. 2nd house has? Not only Jupiter and Mercury. The 2nd house has Jupiter and Mercury. So, can you conclude that his grandfather will be a very good astrologer? Absolutely. Yeah. And here, because we are talking about, we have one chart. We are not looking at D10, D24, etc. We just have one chart, which is analogous to grandfather's Rashi chart. You can't really engage in very fine analysis. If you see Jupiter or Mercury in the 2nd or 8th house, conclude that it's a good astrologer. Or somebody who is learned in Vedanga, learned in occult sciences, and traditional sciences. So, Jupiter and Mercury in the 2nd house will make grandfather a very good astrologer. And look at Sanjay ji himself. Which planets show astrological knowledge, his astrological learning? Pardon me? Jupiter is a good planet in D24, but which planet shows learning astrology? How Sanjay ji learnt astrology? Mercury is the 4th lord, Lagna lord and 4th lord, and of course Venus is the 5th lord of retention, but learning itself is from Virgo. Okay? So, Virgo and Mercury will show Sanjay ji's learning of astrology. And is Mercury showing in his grandfather's chart? Mercury is showing astrology. Mercury is showing astrological knowledge, and that Mercury is also, the Virgo is the 10th house of karma. So the same house that is showing Sanjay ji's learning in D24, it shows grandfather's karma. So there can be a link between grandfather's karma and his learning. So grandfather is engaging in some karma, and that karma is resulting in some learning for Sanjay ji. So that link between Virgo and Mercury in both the charts, which is linking grandfather's astrological learning and also astrological activities, and his astrological learning, Sanjay ji's astrological learning, linking the two, there are some chances that he learns astrology from his grandfather. On the other hand, can he learn astrology from his father? His astrological learning is from Virgo. And in father's case, Virgo is the 6th house of obstruction, obstacles, obstruction, etc. So do you think that his grandfather will aid his learning? But do you think that his father will actually aid his learning or be an obstacle in learning? Or do you think that his father is actually his guru? His father teaches him astrology. That is not very likely. If you look at father, there is Rahu in Lagna, and you don't have Jupiter and Mercury either in 2nd or 8th or 11th, and you don't really expect, looking at Aries as Lagna, you don't expect father to be a good astrologer, a very good astrologer, and looking at Virgo, how it is placed from father's Lagna in D12, you can actually conclude that his astrological learning will face some obstruction from father rather than be aided. But grandfather will only help it. grandfather will see it as his karma. He will see his grandson's learning as his karma, and he will help his grandson. But father will be actually an obstruction. And it is indeed a fact that his father did not really have strong belief in astrology, even though his grandfather is a great astrologer, and his father was actually against his learning astrology. And Sanjay ji once recounted that when he was away, his father burnt all his books, all his astrology books. So that is the kind of help his father rendered in Sanjay ji's astrological pursuit. And you see it from the fact that Virgo is the 6th house in his chart. And now let us see. Now let us see the younger brother of father. How do you see the younger brother of father?
11th is the older brother.
Yeah? Yeah, exactly. Third is younger brother. So if you look at the third from Aries, it is Gemini. So now let us take Gemini as Lagna to see Pandit Kasinath's Earth. He is Sanjay ji's uncle. Actually, more than his grandfather, he learned more from Kasinath ji, from his uncle. Pandit Jagannath had Sanjay ji's father as one son, but there was another son, Kasinath ji. He was the one who learned astrology from his father. And he was the one who taught a lot of astrological secrets to Sanjay ji. So taking Gemini as Lagna, is this person capable of being an astrologer? Could he be a good astrologer? 8th house has Jupiter and Mercury. The same Jupiter and Mercury who are in the 2nd house for grandfather, they are in the 8th house now. And again they have a Raj Yoga, Lagna Lord and 10th Lord being together in the 8th house. So his uncle, Kasinath ji, he is a very good astrologer. And what about Virgo now? Virgo is basically the 4th house of Sanjay ji is also his 4th house, and it contains Moon, the second lord from Gemini. So because the second lord is going there, Kasinath ji will use his resources towards Virgo. And the lord of Virgo is basically Mercury, who is connected with the 8th house of all the occult knowledge. Basically, Virgo and Mercury are connected with the occult knowledge and all predictions of his uncle. And you can also conclude one thing here. Moon is the second lord of predictions, and he is in Virgo. So Virgo shows actual predictions made by his maternal uncle. So Sanjay ji will be learning not only theoretically, but his uncle will be making predictions to people around, and Sanjay ji will be learning from those predictions. Application of astrology. On the other hand, if you see grandfather from Sagittarius, Moon is the 8th lord. Moon, who is in Virgo, he is the 8th lord. This Moon will influence Sanjay ji's learning because he is in Virgo in D12. Moon in D12 will show what grandfather, father, uncle, etc. are doing. And that Virgo is showing his learning pursuit, Sanjay ji's learning. So whatever Moon stands for, that can be a way in which he will learn. So in the case of grandfather, Moon is the 8th lord. So it is just occult knowledge of grandfather. So Sanjay ji will benefit from the occult knowledge of his grandfather. His grandfather will sit with him and say, you know what, Trikona Desa is used for this, because this, like this he will go through the knowledge. But in the case of uncle, because Moon is the second lord, there is a lot of practical application also. He will look at charts. See, in this chart this is happening. Or he will just give readings to people who come to him, and Sanjay ji will sit and learn. So that is what you can conclude. But the bottom line is, in both the cases, Virgo and Mercury are associated with astrological knowledge. So exactly those two people, the uncle and grandfather, they are astrologers, and from them his astrological knowledge came. If you correlate this with Rajiv Gandhi, his father didn't have political power when we saw the D12. But his mother and grandfather, they had the political power, and the same planet Sun was giving political power in his case, so he got it from grandfather and mother. And here Mercury shows astrological learning, and that Mercury is associated with the astrological knowledge of grandfather and uncle. So they were astrologers, and that come to him. So like this you can correlate the planets who are giving a particular thing like power or astrological knowledge in one chart and see D7, D12, etc. and you can conclude who will get that knowledge, who is giving that knowledge, etc. Okay? Let us see D7 now. With that we will conclude.
Mother and father you see both the names.
Yes.
But how do you see adoptive mother and adoptive father?
I don't have an answer. I have to guess. I don't know. I don't honestly know the answer. The question is, there is a physical father and mother for everybody. But if somebody else adopted, how do you see them? That's a very interesting question that I also wondered, but I didn't really get any guidance from my gurus on that. And when I don't have guidance from my gurus, I can only learn by experimenting, and I don't have a lot of data to experiment. So that is one thing in which I don't have any opinion. There are principles, yes. If you look at the book called 300 Important Combinations, it's a book on yoga by P.V. Raman. If you look at that book, there are a lot of yogas. There is a Dattaputra yoga. So there are combinations which will show that somebody may be adopted. But if you want to see that particular mother, if you want to see the physical mother's fortune, and if you want to see the adopted mother's fortune from the deep world, it's not very clear to me. There must be, I'm sure there are some principles. It's just a matter of finding them out. But I don't really have an answer to your question.
Because I was adopted.
You were adopted?
Yeah.
Okay. So why don't we do your chart in the next class, if you don't mind. So bring your chart and at least we'll see why you are adopted. And then to see the fortune of father and mother, we'll try to guess some. We'll try to do some experiments. But we'll see why you were adopted. So we'll do that. So in Saptamsa, if you see Sanjayji's Saptamsa, the first child, how do you see the first child? Do you count backwards or forward? Sagittarius is odd, you count forward. So the first child will be basically Mars. Yeah.
It should be a son, I mean a male.
Why? Why?
Because of Mars. Mars is strong.
No, but you must see who is with. See who is with. The moon is female. Ketu is male.
Mm-hmm.
So the side is female, the planet is female.
Keep going.
Ketu is also female or male? Ketu I thought was male. Ketu is male or female?
What do you guess? Ketu is typically said to be female. Rahu is said to be male. First of all, will the child survive?
Ketu, Mars is Ketu.
Yeah.
So Ketu is affecting Mars.
Yeah, Ketu is terribly affecting Mars. And also the 8th Lord Moon is affecting Mars. So do you think that the first pregnancy will survive?
Only thing I can see is
Before looking at the sex, see if it survives. And if you see, in some cases,
the Lord of the 5th house is affected, but Venus is in the 5th house, who is strong enough to give children.
yes, but what is Venus here? For the 5th house, is Venus a good planet or bad planet? He's the second lord from there. If you take the 5th house Aries, which shows the first pregnancy, Venus is the second and 7th lord from there. He is the Maraka. So even though Venus in general says, he's a Maraka. So as for this pregnancy, he doesn't have any intention of saving it. Because he is entrusted with the job of killing that child. So Venus does not really save. And that Mars is afflicted by 8th Lord Moon. From Lagna, Moon is the 8th Lord, right? He is afflicting Mars. And also Ketu is afflicting Mars. Ketu is usually, he wants to burn away things. So because Mars, Moon and Ketu are together in Gemini, it is very unlikely that this pregnancy will survive. So go to the next one. Will it be a boy or girl? Lord is Mercury, right? So he is in Scorpio, he is alone, so there are no other influences. So the first one is abortion, second one is Mercury. Boy or girl? Why? Why is it a boy? Mercury is? No, you don't see Mercury, you see the sign. First you see other planets he is with, and second you see sign, boy or girl, based on that. He is in Scorpio. Is it even or odd? Even sign. That means girl. So is everybody sure that the second child, which is actually the first survived child, is a girl? Everybody agrees, or are we missing something like a parivartana?
Ketu and Mercury are Parivartana.
Mars and Ketu are the lords of Scorpio. They are in Gemini. And Gemini lord is Mercury. He is in Scorpio. So there is a parivartana between Mars and Ketu and Mercury. When there is a parivartana, what is the rule? Change. The sex will be the opposite of what you would have expected. You would have expected female, so it ends up being a male. So you have to take Scorpio as Lagna and judge all the things, but it will basically be a male child. Yeah, but not for the right reason. Doesn't count. Okay, so the first child is male. And is the child likely to become a good astrologer?
Possibility. Jupiter is in own sign.
Lagna, first of all, in this case, you take it as the third.
Lagna is Gemini.
Lagna is Scorpio. No, not Gemini.
You have to see the
You take the Paka.
It is the lord of that.
So Lagna you take as Scorpio. So take Scorpio as Lagna and analyze this chart. Then you will find out what will happen to this particular child.
Fifth house has Jupiter.
Fifth house has Jupiter. Yeah.
I'm not exactly.
He's in one house. Yeah.
Eighth house has got
Yeah.
Mars, Ketu, and Moon.
Yeah.
And is that a combination for astrology? There's Mars, Ketu, and
See, the thing is, Mars and Ketu in Gemini will act as if they are Mercury. Because of Parivartana. Mercury in Lagna will act as if he is Mars and Ketu. So Scorpio Lagna practically has Mars and Ketu in it. And 8th house Gemini practically has Moon and Mercury there. Okay? And so 5th house has Jupiter and 8th house has Mercury practically. So he can be a good astrologer. Okay? Rahu is in the 2nd house. What do you think? It's not good for predictions. But at the same time, it can also give lot of intuition. Yeah. Rahu and Ketu in the 2nd house will give lot of intuition. Those people, when they make predictions, it's not based on solid logic. They can, for example, say Mercury is in the Paka, Mercury shows boy. Actually, Mercury doesn't show boy. Mercury is neutral. So it can be boy or girl, depending on the other influences. So you use totally wrong logic, but you are right. People are amazed. And also people end up learning wrong principles from you. That is the blessing or curse of Rahu in the 2nd house. On the other hand, if you have Jupiter or Mercury in the 2nd house, you give predictions because they are based on solid principles and based on tradition. Rahu and Ketu are the planets of intuition. Of course, if Rahu is in the 2nd house, it can also show whatever you say goes wrong. That is also possible. You have to look at the strength of Rahu. Yes. From Jupiter? Yes, Jupiter is the 2nd lord. He has Rasi Drishti, he has Argala. So all the nice indications are there. So Rahu will be totally dominated by Jupiter. So he'll make good predictions. He'll have good scholarship, and he'll have very good occult knowledge. But the problem is, he has Moon, the 9th lord. 9th is the basic protection of any chart. The 9th lord Moon is in Manakaraka Sthana in the 8th house, Ashtama Chandra. That's a great weakness in the chart. It's a great weakness. And also you have this Parivartana between 8th lord and Lagna lord. It's not a good yoga. When you have Parivartana between Lagna and 8th lord, it's called Duryoga. Parivartana between Lagna lord and 9th lord, for example, is a Raj Yoga. Parivartana between 4th lord and 9th lord is Raj Yoga. If you have Parivartana between Kendra and Kona lords, it's Raj Yoga. But if you have Parivartana between Kendra, Kona lords and Sthana lords, it's a Duryoga. So Lagna itself is involved in a Duryoga. And the 8th house has Moon, 9th lord Moon. 9th lord is in Manakaraka Sthana. It shows the basic protection, the blessings that come to you from the past life. That is 9th house. Those are withdrawn. They suffer death. So there is a fundamental weakness in the chart. Forget being an astrologer. The fundamental weakness is the very existence of the child is basically hampered by these weaknesses, these duryogas and the 8th moon. The child is an artistic child. The child, the son of Sanjay ji, he is artistic. He has learning difficulty. He is, I don't know how old he is now, maybe 10 or so, but he has the mind of a very small boy, and they are looking for cues using various methods. And if those weaknesses are overcome, you do have the strength in the chart for him to be a good astrologer. But my prediction is, even though he is artistic at this moment, my prediction is that his problems will be overcome later, and he will actually become a very good astrologer and keep the flame alive. That is my prediction.
And
So this is how, pardon me?
And it is only changed because Ketu is sending it there, or?
No, actually there was another child, but let's not go there. Let's just leave it there. Let us leave it there. Let us leave it here. But this is how you see. You see which planets are giving a certain kind of knowledge to a person, and looking at deep role, you can look at father, grandfather, uncle, like we have done, and you can look at Saptansya, all the children of somebody, and you can see who will get that knowledge and where the knowledge comes from. Similarly, in the case of Rajiv Gandhi, we saw, you can see grandfather, father, mother, you can see who has power and from whom the power comes. So when you want to do that kind of analysis, you have to link different charts. And when you link the charts, see the planet, the common planets, which planet is giving which result here, and is the same planet giving similar results for somebody else, in like father or mother or grandfather. And like that you correlate different divisional charts to see how different things come to you, from whom they come to you. With that I conclude for today. No more questions, Kiran. I will take your questions in the next class. It's already late and I have to see somebody's chart. Okay? So, next class. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti.
Computer mari crash old pin ne open chestunde
Extra panchali.
okay ఇంకా మరి విండోస్
Try చేస్తానండి మీరు. It should work. If it doesn't work, I'll give you more. Yours?
Windows 2000 ఇది మీరు చేసుకోవచ్చు యాక్చువల్లీ వెబ్లో మీరు డౌన్లోడ్ చేసుకోవచ్చు వెంటనే